Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you may be located. Thank you for joining me today, today's webinar, 10 things you didn't know you can monitor with Intermapper. And what I'll do is kind of go through just kind of a high-level overview of some of the things that the Intermapper software and just network monitoring in general, things to kind of be aware of, solutions that might be out there that you need to kind of take into consideration when you're managing your day-to-day operation. My name is Kevin Jackson. I am the Technical Solutions Consultant for Help Systems by way of the Intermapper product, and I am pleased to be able to present to you and provide you with just a little bit of insight about who we are and what we do and how we can help you. Also, we'll have a brief kind of Q&A at the end of the presentation, so if you have any questions, you can present those questions through the chat window. Also, before I get started, I would like to open up just a few polling questions just for the general audience, if you guys don't mind a little bit of feedback. The first question would be, how often do you experience network outages at your organization? On average, how long does it typically take you to locate a network issue, and if you're currently using a network monitoring solution? So I'll open that poll and keep that poll open, and then we'll kind of take a look at the results at the end of the presentation. So our agenda today is we'll talk about why we think IT professionals need some type of flexible network monitoring solution. Then we'll talk about 10 things or 10 ideals within the Intermapper product that we can support, and we can provide you with some feedback and assistance. And then I'll go online and provide you with a quick demo of the product and show you some of those devices that we're currently monitoring in a test environment, and then we'll take some questions thereafter as well. So let's talk a little bit about why IT professionals need to have flexibility in their monitoring operations. I think it really comes down to, in my eyes, three kind of basic ideals, three components, three ideas within the kind of monitoring space. First and foremost, dynamic networks. And what does that mean? Networks are becoming more dynamic. This is no longer an age where we're seeing a lot of traditional networks and infrastructures within organizations. We're starting to find and start to look for different ways to present data and also different ways to present infrastructure to account for not just costs, but also account for growth within institutions as well. Another big component of dynamic networks is telecommuting. Telecommuting has become increasingly important as folks are starting to move around, not just local areas, but also the globe. We need to basically accommodate those types of, those types of institutions and those types of technology. So it's very important because of cost, and also because of the diversity within the workforce. So the mobility trend is on the rise. A lot of remote workers means that your network is not just institutionalized, but it's also kind of expanding outwards. So we need to be able to find a solution that can provide you with some feedback if that is where your environment is headed. So I talked a little bit about diverse technology. Technology is ever evolving. We also are looking to improve every day. Technology provides an alternate, options to traditional hardware services. So again, we're not just seeing those traditional in-house hardware services, physical devices anymore. We're seeing a lot of diversity within the technology as we move to different different types of technologies. We talked about, we hear about the Internet of Things, where a lot of vendors are starting to make their devices IP-enabled. Everyone wants to network their home devices to their home networks. People want to be able to work from home to connect to corporate networks and corporate structures. We're kind of moving away from physical hardware to more virtualization, moving to the cloud services, in an effort to reduce cost and operating costs. We're trying to collapse the hardware, kind of make it a little bit more robust and efficient, but also increase the amount of information that we're currently trying to get. Increase the performance power of these devices and these applications. So this allows a flexibility that we've never seen before, and now you need something to basically handle that task. So this is very important as we move to these different types of technology, that we have a software that can support that next level. Increasing impact of downtime. So this is kind of self-explanatory. Downtime equals loss of revenue. Downtime also equals a black eye on your brand. We've seen consistently over the last few years that larger brands have been experiencing network outages for whatever reasons, whether it be legacy devices, whether it be lack of monitoring, whether it be saturation, and just they're not really ready for the growth that they're experiencing, and they don't have the infrastructure to support. Whatever the issue is, or whatever kind of shortfalls they're having, it's impacting their day-to-day, it's impacting their revenue, it's impacting their brand. So one thing that you can control, obviously growth is inevitable for some businesses, but one thing that you can control is you can control the ability to at least have some proactivity within your organization. Having something that can provide you with feedback so you can take those necessary steps to mitigate immediately before it kind of sits there and becomes a business critical event. So this, again, the impact of downtime equals loss in revenue, productivity, and then also the user satisfaction, that becomes an issue. I think we've seen Delta in the past have an outage. There's a large telecommunication company in Australia, based in Australia, that had an outage that impacted their business. We've seen Bloomberg have an outage. BlackBerry, so a lot of the large, kind of brands, Amazon, they've all experienced some type of outage that has affected their brand in some way, shape, or form, where they've taken the necessary steps to kind of look to improve and increase spending that goes towards ensuring that that outage doesn't happen again. So a flexible monitoring solution can, have some really positive impact in terms of avoiding an increased downtime that can impact your business negatively. So what are 10 things that the Intermapper product can assist you with and help you monitor? So the first thing is the ability to monitor and capture information from pretty much any device from any vendor. The nice thing about our product is we're vendor agnostic, so it doesn't matter what vendor we're talking about. Oftentimes environments are not homogeneous, they're heterogeneous environments, so there's multiple different types of components, whether it be different hardware or different vendor solutions within a particular space. Intermapper doesn't care what that hardware vendor is. We just focus on the information that we can capture from that particular device. So, that includes being able to talk to your servers, being able to talk to your switches, your core devices, routers, firewalls, workstations, printers, wireless devices. All these devices that we can, from a core perspective, we can have access to and present information and monitor. Business critical applications, applications that have specific processes and services associated with them. These are applications that are business critical, are critical to the, to the day-to-day operation, that presents and provides you with information, that sends information from one locale to another. So this is important information that you need to kind of be aware of and have some comfort that some type of solution is at least taking a look at the interpannings of these applications. And that might not be on the front end, but at least we're able to monitor and capture information on the back end. Whether it be monitoring the database in which these applications sits on, whether it be monitoring the services that runs these applications, whether it be presenting and monitoring the processes associated with it, or looking for even specific events that might be a detriment to these applications. These are things that we need to kind of be aware of, and this is something that we can overage with the Intermapper product. So these are some of the a few examples of different types of business critical applications that might be in your space. Obviously, email is probably one of the most critical applications to most, and if any, all businesses that we can kind of overage and look at. Excuse me. Just jumping ahead a little bit. Number 3, facilities. Now this particular option here is something that I think a lot of IT professionals seem to neglect. We understand that most of the time within our infrastructure, within our IT closet, within our data center, we're focused on our main devices, you know, our core infrastructure. But what about those supporting devices that's sitting within that space? You know, your HVAC, these are different types of sensors and equipment that are really important to, basically keeping your data center cooled and keeping those devices functioning appropriately. So the nice thing about these types of facility systems is they're now IP enabled and they now support SNMP. So now we can reach those devices and talk to those devices and be able to monitor those devices and get some positive feedback from those devices as well. So these are some of those facilities, devices that we might not think about, but now are able to, we can put those on the map and monitor those devices and capture some really good information from those devices. Environmental sensors, another component within your data center. Door alarms, security cameras, door locks, you know, these are all things that are really important and key in just overall operations, just keeping a closer eye on the physical space in which not just your IT environment sits, but also your business as well, right? You have, some people might have door alarms or sensors with their front doors, you know, door locks. These are things that are, again, IP-based and now can be monitored as well. So these are things that we encourage folks to include on their map and include in their monitoring coverage. Classroom technology. So Intermapper has a very large presence within the educational community, and not only do they use our product to monitor their core infrastructure to support their back-end environment, but they also use the Intermapper product to monitor their equipment in their classrooms. So all these devices that are now being given out to students, all these, you know, the smart board devices that are used within the classrooms, they're all electronic, they're all IP-based, and they're all monitored within the kind of classroom technology space. Also, some of our educational customers are now using the Intermapper product as part of their curriculum. So now they're, you know, if they're teaching a networking class, they're using the Intermapper software to be able to kind of capture some feedback and teach the students about how to approach networking and what type of information they need to be able to monitor going forward. So it's a really kind of very nice tool to be able to use within that classroom setting. Clinical equipment. We also have a lot of customers within the healthcare space. You know, we're using hospitals also to monitor critical network components and infrastructure, but more so being able to monitor the infrastructure that's kind of tasked with delivering that important information to the medical personnel. So You know, it's very important that especially within the healthcare facility, that you have reliable systems. And you have adequate uptime with these facilities, because they're delivering this real time. They're delivering life-saving information from one point to the next. So again, we're able to support the healthcare community and the hospitals in their efforts to ensure that the information gets to where it needs to be, and the devices and components within that space are always up and monitored appropriately. So these are some of the things within the kind of healthcare facility and the healthcare space that also are IP enabled and can provide additional input to that endpoints. Communications technology. This is something that our ISPs, our wireless service providers, our MSPs, use our products to monitor these communication devices. This kind of goes hand in hand with the ability to monitor that remote technology. Again, with the Internet of Things, there's a lot of different components within technology that's now mobile and outside of the offices. So being able to monitor those communications, those endpoint devices, I think is key and important. So we can see the movement of these devices and ensure that those devices are operating and working as they're supposed to. Number 8, industrial equipment. The nice thing about our product and the flexibility of what we do is it's not just within a normal working environment, but we're also, as you see, we're also within hospitals, we're also within educational facilities, but we're also in manufacturing space as well. Robotics. These are all digital and technology that supports IP connectivity. So we're on those shop floors monitoring some of those manufacturing applications. We're on those shop floors monitoring those manufacturing systems that's delivering information to the end user and to the employees. So I think it's a really important kind of operation to ensure that you're currently monitoring those high-level manufacturing equipment and getting some positive feedback from those equipment as well. Now this is kind of interesting. We have a few customers that are doing some really interesting kind of monitoring. A few customers that they have some oil tankers that they're currently using Intermapper to monitor just fuel levels. We have a few customers that are, they have freight ships, just kind of understanding where those ships are moving around. So these are some really kind of interesting environments that Intermapper is sitting in, being able to understand and monitor mining environments. So not just in the office, not just in kind of control spaces, but these are spaces that are, kind of unpredictable that we're able to support as well. And last but not least, we can monitor whatever you want to monitor. The nice thing about it is we have a full range of ways that we can kind of attack and monitor your devices. Intermapper uses SNMP, we use ICMP, we use HTTP, we use TCP, and command line capabilities to be able to extract information from devices and present them on the map and allow you to present and provide thresholds to these devices as well. So that gives us a lot of flexibility. On the back end, what we use is we use what we call a probe, and a probe is basically what our probe is just a text file that allows us to use the MIBs and the OID values. The MIBs are the management information base, so these are pretty much pretty much information that is presented by your vendors. So the vendors of these respective devices and applications present these values, and the values provide us with the ability to extract that information from that device. Now with our probe, now we're able to add thresholds and alarms to whatever conditions we want within that probe. So the probe gives us a lot of flexibility based on what is presented within, by the vendor. Gives us a lot of flexibility in terms of the types of devices, hardware applications that we can monitor. So as you can see, there's a pretty diverse array of different types of things that we can basically add to the map, present, and provide you with some feedback, including gas pumps is something that we have some customers who are monitoring gas levels in their pumps, ATMs, in-vehicle laptops. So there's a lot of good feedback and information there that we can present on a map as well. So what I'll do is I'll quickly show you a live demo of a few devices that we're currently monitoring using the Intermapper software. So what I'm going to do is just share my screen really quickly. Okay. So this is a map of a few devices, different types of devices that we're currently monitoring. We have a storage array that we're currently monitoring in one of our locations. We're monitoring an HP switch. So if I look at my status window here, I'm using SNMP v1 to capture some information about my switch, monitoring just the health of the switch, but also I'm able to see the traffic on some of those specific links. So these are my different interfaces that I'm currently monitoring, and I can see the traffic, the data being transmitted and received on those interfaces. I'm able to monitor UPS with SNMP, just looking at the temperature, the load on that UPS, just ensuring that that UPS is functioning appropriately. We have a iSeries application server that I'm currently monitoring. So I'm also using SNMP to monitor some of the physical attributes of that iSeries. So as you can see here, I'm capturing some general information about this box, monitoring some physical attributes, the RAM, load percentages, CPU utilization, processes and sessions loaded, and also just monitoring the traffic on that device as well, the link traffic on that device. Monitoring an environmental sensor in our New Hampshire office. I'm able to capture some really good information about that, just ensuring that the sensor is working appropriately. Also monitoring, this is a PatLite. PatLite is another network monitoring solution that we are working with. PatLite, if you've ever been to an airport or a grocery store and you notice those little lights on top of the gates, this is what PatLite does. Is they're a monitoring solution that allows you to visually see when things happen. So we have a PatLite unit that we're currently monitoring. So it again supports SNMP, but we're also able to monitor other monitors as well, which is kind of cool. Monitoring iPhone, just availability. We're able to monitor one of our websites, so we can monitor the traffic to the website. The nice thing here is there's an issue with this particular website. We're currently monitoring this particular link, but Intermapper tells us that this link has been moved to a different URL. So it gives us some feedback in terms of how we can go ahead and address that issue. And then we're monitoring a firewall, just a basic firewall for traffic as well. We can monitor VPN traffic on that particular firewall using SNMP. So there's a lot of different information that allows us to capture some really good feedback. Using the probes, as I mentioned, so we shipped the product with about 200 200 plus built-in probes, some SNMP probes. We have some specific network device probes. We have server probes where you're able to monitor basic applications and protocols, web services, built-in wireless probes that we provide, WMI and PowerShell probes for Windows applications, so the ability to monitor your email services, or if you wanted to monitor SharePoint or SQL services, these are some of the probes that you can use to capture that some really good information and feedback. So these are some of just a few or a handful of the different types of devices as we covered within the presentation in terms of what we can do and how we can monitor that information for you. All right, so at this stage, I would love to have some questions if you have. So there are a few questions. If there's any plans to increase and add additional probes to our product. We're always looking at what we need to do to improve and kind of provide better feedback for our customers. The customers provide us with a lot of feedback in terms of what they want to see within the product. And probe development has always been something kind of at the forefront. So we are looking to add and include more current and up-to-date probes based on some of the newer technology that we've seen within the space. So that's something that's on our radar and that we're looking to do fairly soon, actually. I really appreciate the time that you've spent with me, and hopefully I've been able to provide you with some feedback and some insight into how Intermapper works and how we can help solve some of your day-to-day issues and provide you with that flexible monitoring that you might be looking for within your space. Thanks again, and have a wonderful, wonderful day.